A very warm welcome, everybody, to the Dentsply Sirona talks, United for Digital Dentistry. Thank you all for joining here today and also online in the live stream that is also recorded. My name is Tina Teucher. I'm a moderator for Future Competency and Sustainable Innovation, and I'm excited for today to guide you all through this wonderful hour, and we look forward to this important conversation about digital dentistry in 1 hour. So for decades, digitalization has been transforming every single of our lives. How did digitalization simplify and improve our lives and life quality? Well, it has been opening up new horizons. We have been connected so much more, and it has also strengthened the globalization. It changes our personal lives and our workspaces. In dentistry, for example, it enables us to use data, just as images, through information processing, so to visualize 3D models. And these developments actually are also challenging us and asking new questions. What does the future hold for digital dentistry? Does it add a layer of complexity, or can the digitalization make it even more simpler so that the dentist's work is easier? Will we still need dental professionals when artificial intelligence and robots are taking over more and more tasks? How will users actually accept these new technologies? So are we as humans adapting to the technology, or is the technology adapting to us? And will the patient of the future accept this? Will he be more and more transparent? What about data security? So what prospects can offer us inspiration and the courage to evolve? This is the question. How can digitalization transform the dentist industry so that dental professionals can actually laser focus on what is most important to them, their patients? And with this panel, we want to discuss the status quo, but actually also the future, and we want to venture bold theses and awaken the desire to ask questions. For this, we also want to invite you, our dear audience, on site and on the screens to ask questions, also in the Q&A session at the end. And throughout the discussion in the chat that you can see the possibility on your screens to ask questions in the chat. So now I'm happy to introduce to you our esteemed panelists and experts. Please welcome with me Dr. Orna Berry. She serves as a Director of Technology in the Office of the CTO at Google Cloud. Dr. Orna Berry is an entrepreneur, a computer expert and scientist, industry executive, and the former chief scientist in the government of Israel. In the 3 years prior to joining Google Cloud Office of CTO, she has designed for Israel National Research Infrastructure programs for quantum science and technology and artificial intelligence and data science. And throughout her career, Dr. Berry has been the recipient of various awards. Warm welcome. Max Mills, he is Group Vice President, DP&S Marketing Clinical Software at Dentsply Sirona. He works for Dentsply Sirona since January 2021 and is responsible for the definition, launch, and global rollout of all solutions in Dentsply Sirona's digital ecosystem, including equipment, services, and software platforms. Prior to this, he worked for 12 years at Siemens, where he was Senior Vice President Management Consulting with a focus on strategy and digital transformation, leading global projects for Siemens and its clients. He has led teams in Europe, North America, Africa, and Asia, and also worked in China for 5 years. Please welcome Max Mills. Dr. Gertrud Fabel is a dentist in full-time with her private practice in Munich, where her focus is on metal-free prosthodontic rehabilitation and crowns and bridges and aesthetics. Her focus is also on digitalization of both the office and the laboratory and single-visit dentistry. She has a Master in Science in Clinical Dental CAD-CME from the University of Greifswald and is internationally recognized as an expert in that field. Dr. Gertrud Fabel has been a Ceretz user since 2008 and also a mentor in this field as well as a trainer. She provides national and international trainings, lectures, and publications and is a proud member of Leading Ladies in Dentistry. Dr. Gertrud Fabel. Devon Fraser is a lab technician from Canada who worked in the health industry for already 20 years. He is with Highland already for 16 years, anticipating the morphing dental landscape. Modernization began 16 years ago on this with the acquisition of the first in-house milling unit. A few years later, the lab is the state-of-the-art with multiple scanners, mills, and 3D model printers. He has received advanced design certificates from Dentsply Sirona, Vita, and beyond. And Devon Fraser is also global in-lab trainer certified in Germany, which is very rare, and software and hardware materials beta tester. He's writing for several publications in the dental industry and identifies himself as a tooth nerd. Please welcome Devon Fraser. Jerry Campbell is Group Vice President Commercial EMEA at Dentsply Sirona. He's leading the Northern RCO and has the RCOs reporting to him in the DACH region, Southern and Eastern. He became Group Vice President at Dentsply Sirona for the Northern EMEA in 2019, but also already joined Sirona in 2007, so has a lot of experience in the industry and in the business, also in UK and Ireland. Prior to this, he had a 20-year career with Coxon Group PLC, 14 years in EMEA, manufacturing leadership roles, and 7 years in global marketing. Welcome, Jerry Campbell. So actually, what are the opportunities, but also the challenges with the topic of digitalization in the dentist industry? Let's start a discussion with you, Dr. Orna Berry. You are from Google Cloud and the major market actor that everyone knows when it comes to digitalization. I suppose you're thinking a lot about the future of technologies and solutions. So can you please, for us, paint a picture of where we are heading with the world following this trajectory of digitalization? So particularly also for the impact on dentistry. So are we heading for a world where we can't do anything without computers anymore?
No. First of all, I'm going to assume that we are human-centric. Things are not going to have namely computers are not going to have neither intuition nor the full context. Mm-hmm. And certainly they don't see as well who stands in front of them. So that's not my assumption, and unless I'm asked to, I will not repeat it. I think we work in a human-centric, certainly in medicine, certainly in dentistry, we work in a human-centric world. And what is happening, much like in the car industry, that we have so many electronic components, the same happens in every device that we have. We have many sensors like cameras, we have many other processing devices. So at the end of the day, the equipment, the dental equipment, is also full of digital components. And with the digital components, it's very feasible when there is quite significant amount of data and quite significant amount of processing, that this will be done in the cloud. And the advantage of using the cloud is also that this leads to the use of data science and artificial intelligence. And again, when we use artificial intelligence, is for the improvement of the treatment and for the efficiency in use of the equipment. It's not about letting the equipment treat us or tell us what we need to have. So we are going in that particular direction of sharing information that comes from different sources, be it, let's focus on the dentists, that let's say that multiple dentists have different experiences, but the information about them in an ethical and privacy-preserving fashion is gathered. And the more information there is, the better algorithms we can create, and more efficiently we can use that information. And the better algorithms means that we need less information and less processing when a dentist is treating a patient, and also with such capabilities like natural language processing, both the patient and the dentist can get faster questions specified to artificial intelligence and faster answers that are clear to the situation. And again, we stop at the point that we have more information. We don't make the final. We don't let the machine make the final decision, but we have and we know what is the context, what are similarities, and what we can learn from the data on the patient and the experience of the doctor.
This sounds great and like a new world of chances and opportunities. Do you also see disadvantages or challenges in this field?
Normally the challenges are that it takes different disciplines. It takes the discipline of patients, it takes the discipline of doctors, it takes the discipline of the equipment manufacturer, and it takes the discipline of the technology developers and vendors. And you actually need to have multidisciplinary understanding of what is the next step for usage of all those disciplines together. And I think we're getting accustomed, ever since we started using smartphones, we're getting accustomed to certain applications that are very common and we use them a lot. And I think that the same will happen here. What is trusted by the patient and is backed by the dentist and is aggregated by the let's say Dentsply Sirona in this particular case, based on technology that they're using in the cloud and with artificial intelligence, then this is the first adoption that will be made by the dentist and by the patient.
Yeah, because we are already used to using our smartphones and our computers, but talking about today about digitalization in the dentist industry, so what is kind of the starting point, or how can the industry and an industry as sensitive as the dental industry actually, become part of this digital world?
They are.
Yeah, take
they already
advantages.
are. They already are. They have plenty data. They have plenty components that are digital components. They are using the infrastructure of the cloud, and they are using certain aggregation of the information. And what I'm saying, aggregation of information, data available, can also be used in order to respond to clarity, for example, about alternative treatments. This we always go to look for information, let's say in Google search, but the information in Google search is actually addressing information that is coming from experts who tried the space. And consequently, I'm saying let's do that as part of the interface to the patient at the point of service of the dentist and make it available. That's all.
Yeah.
It's a topic-based search rather than it is the general search that you do normally, not when you're sitting together with the dentist. But it's the same. It will aggregate the clarity that is required for the patient to understand what are the alternatives and how frequently they need to go to the dentist. And for the dentist to be able to treat them in a preventative method so their teeth do not fall off completely.
So you say digitalization is actually a process, an ongoing process that, will keep on also evolving and, improving. So the question is to you, Max Smith, what are the technologies that are actually going to impact the dental industry in terms of digitalization? What is it that you see is in the focus here?
Thank you. I think Anna already touched upon a few of those. I think I want to start with saying dentistry today is already pretty digital. We struggle to find a dental practice that doesn't use software or any sort of digital technology. But it feels a little bit digital dentistry 1.0, right? If you think about it, a lot of the technology was not made with the intention on this has to be user-centric, and I think we're moving to a user-centric age where all the different complexity pieces that are in a dental practice, because it is today full of computers, move to the back. Because people go to a dentist because they have an issue. Dentists focus on treating the patient. Today, a lot of the technology still feels like people should focus on the technology. We want them to actually focus on the patient and move the technology to the background. And what Anna was saying, this requires cloud computing, because that's the only way to bring systems together, to avoid constantly having updates and so forth. And only by having that in place is it actually possible to deploy algorithms that make dentists, labs, dental hygienists' lives easier. Because we should not focus on the technology, we should focus on enabling the dental care team, between a dentist, between a lab technician, between all the others, to focus on the patient. And that requires cloud and AI. Those are the two things that really drive the technology change here.
So how is it for a dentist actually to move together with the digitalization in the future? What is your experience, Dr. Gertrud Fabel, in your daily practice? How does digitalization actually influence your daily work?
Well, there was a lot. I totally agree, which we heard already. And looking back, when I started with digital dentistry, it more or less was simply a scanner and producing fillings. So this was pretty much everything you could do like digitally in your office. And when my father-in-law retired 15 years ago, we would let him do his paperwork, although we already use computers, of course. But by now, pretty much everything from diagnosis to producing crowns, fillings, to get into contact with the labs, to plan implants. We use digital techniques, so it's pretty much everything. Although I have the strong feeling it's more or less still a translation from analog to digital. So we use a digital articulator when we do prosthetics. Why don't we use more the real movements of the jaw, for example? So this is big data which have to be transported to the labs, which takes a lot more equipment in our practice, and of course it's an invest. But more or less we are still like ongoing in our process to buy new computers, to buy new equipment, because we cannot use the older hardware with the newer software. So I really am looking forward to get rid of all those components we use right now and are able to use directly the means we already have. As all of you mentioned smartphones and so on. So we use a lot technology in our daily practice, which we don't have in our dental office.
But you are kind of a pioneer. You have a lot installed already. Can you give us some examples of how your practice is looking like with this digitalization?
Well, actually, everything starts with a scan. So our patient record is not only a paperwork, but we fill out. So this is the tooth number 1, and he has a filling on the mesial side. We do scans. We do X-rays. We do 3D X-rays, CBCTs, and then we look at the whole patient. We do face scans, we do pictures, and what we still need is like a simple way to put everything together to get like a digital patient. Then we talk about that maybe later. But then. Like a software can tell us, okay, so his muscle tension is like this or that. So please don't use that material because his tension seems too strong for that material. Look another material which has different physical means. Take that one for that bridge or crown or whatsoever.
Yeah,
so
I can see you see a lot of opportunities to even digitalize more. Devin, I want to ask you, how do you see this development, especially the relationship between the lab technicians and the dentists? How does this develop when it comes to digitalization? How is it influenced by this?
Perhaps the first and most daunting part of this question is knowing that there's a time limit. There's so much that we can take from this. As a laboratory, of course, we make crowns, we make bridges, we make veneers. We do these things. We understand that. And at the risk of oversimplification, I don't see myself as necessarily, I just so happen to make crowns and bridges. I provide solutions to problems. And that's what we do in the laboratory. When we see innovations as they're occurring now, we see that there are new problems which require newer solutions. We're here celebrating 100 years at IDS, and I was thinking about this morning. And I think, at what year was no new solution ever proposed? Every year. That's why we come here. That's why we get excited. You called me a tooth nerd. I'm a bit nerdy. I'm excited about these things, and that's what drives us, because we want to do better. Because we want to make the patients whole. That's really the goal that we have. And when I look at the technology that we have and the opportunities, there used to be an idea that existed where you could have something that was good, something that was fast, and something that was cheap. But you couldn't have all three. You had to pick two. And I see that rule has now been broken. And that, in fact, in dentistry, we can really have all three. That's what is so exciting about these newer types of solutions. We can provide better patient care, which means happier patients, happier dentists. The fits, the tolerances are that much better. The time is expedited with newer materials. Yes, they're slightly more cost effective, but also they look better, they act better. The physical properties are just improved.
You were just mentioning the dentists and the patients, but where are the lab technicians in this equation? Actually, are robots, artificial intelligence replacing this work? Is there a risk? What do you think?
No. I see, unfortunately, every year you hear these scary tales that there's less technicians entering the market. So first off, this is a counterbalance to correct this issue. You look at people are more aware of things like cosmetic dentistry. People aren't just going to get something fixed, they want to change a look. There's more reasons that drive people daily to dentists. Therefore, the demand on our industry is higher. How do we meet a higher demand with lesser people? The stopgap is technology. As a trainer, I often find myself talking to people in these similar conversations, and there seems to be two camps. We're technologists, this must be hands-on, and then there's also, let's all rely on the machines. And to me, the The best outcome is I tell people when I start training them, I'm going to turn you into a cyborg. You are half man, half robot, because we can then implement the best of what we all have to offer. You need the skill, the insight, the know-how of a technician. There's no doubt in my mind about this, especially for best patient outcomes. Computers, these types of machines don't have Mondays. They just perform. They just do what they do. You don't have to do any arm twisting to have them mill at 3 a.m. So we can expedite our workflows, and at the same time, it does not come at a sacrifice of quality, of workmanship, where it might have before.
So you think this will be kind of the new role of, there will be new roles for lab technicians to actually add value on this?
And isn't that exciting?
Yes.
We can delve into this somewhat, but evolution requires change.
Yeah.
And we're always evolving, whether we are aware of it or not. So as soon as we realize that we are, and we are in an industry that's changing because the world is changing, we need just to identify that it's happening, and now we'll find our new place in it. This is what, once again, what makes us so excited to have these things. We have computer programs, we have these things. I really enjoyed what Max said, is that yes, we have all this equipment, but it's moving to the back because we can focus on what we want to do most. In a laboratory, there's many steps involved. There's pickups, there's deliveries, there's pouring models, there's refractory models, there's wax ups, there's all these things. But in the end, what are we here to do? To provide a solution, a prosthetic device. And that's where the real joy comes in, is to build. And I don't mean to diminish. Maybe some people really love pouring models in a laboratory in the analog fashion. There may be these people. I've yet to encounter one. But in the final analysis, we derive a real sense of satisfaction out of creation. And that's what we do. We create. And so I was remarking earlier, I still walk by. I've seen tens of thousands of crowns being printed or milled, and I'm still looking inside these machines. There's a glass surface on these mills, and I was thinking years ago that yes, it's sometimes milling with a liquid, but the purpose of the glass is so I don't drool on the inside and wreck something, because I'm so fascinated by what's going on. So these solutions aren't just, it's not a solution looking for a problem.
Yeah.
It's a problem that has found a solution.
Nice.
And I cannot be convinced otherwise. We've seen how this has gone, and every year we're just expediting this workflow. 15 years ago, milling, what is this? And by today, it is just the standard.
Yeah.
So what we're looking at today with the ideas of the core, it has the newness of zirconia or whatever that material might have been. But in a year or two, it'll have the standard of being, I can't even remember a time when we weren't doing this.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, there are a lot of opportunities in it. And yeah, you all work on this, and Jerry is actually working with dental professionals in very different markets. So when we go not only to Europe, but also to the US, to Asia, to EMEA, what is your experience there? How is digital dentistry perceived and evolving there?
I think the first thing to say is this is a global movement. It's not isolated to any country or any place now, and it is moving at a pace. I've been in dentistry for 15 years, and I've never seen dentistry move so quickly. And I think the fact that it's moving at a pace is a little bit frightening for some people. And I think the way this is evolving now is that if you look at the way the dental practice has changed, even in the last few years, you mentioned 15 years ago. 15 years ago, you couldn't think about the technology we had today, either in dentistry or in other facts of life, other things that are digitized today that weren't digitized then. If you look at where we are right now, everyone's moving at a pace. Some countries moving at a greater pace than others. But the fact is that this is a movement, and this movement will continue. And as you think about the very first stages of entering into digital dentistry, it's about intraoral scanning. Everything starts with a scan. And as you start looking at the population of dentists who have scanners right now, it's still fairly low, an overall population of dentists. Now, why is that the case? Now, scanning's been around for a long time, and you think about the innovators who started out, the very people who are really into the technology at the start, then you get into the early adopters. Now I think for intraoral scanning, we're into that stage of the early majority, which is a big bulk of people in the population, dentists in the population, coming through now looking for the solution on digital. They've heard about digital, they're excited about it, they want to know what it can do for them and their patients. But there's a lot of people there who need help from the industry to help them through that process. If you think about the questions that they're asking themselves about this, it's about, well, the first question is, well, how do I change what I do in my dental practice? From an analog process to a digital process. It affects a lot of people in the practice. And you know, dentistry is a team effort from everyone in the practice. That's one aspect of it. Data privacy and data security are big questions that we hear often. And also, if you think about the way in which dentists are reimbursed, there's also question marks around how that operates as well. And in some markets, reimbursement is not there for a digital scan. So the people who are looking after reimbursement and looking after legislation need to be moving at the same pace as the industry. Otherwise, we get great solutions out there that cannot be adopted because there's another barrier or force coming against that. So it's moving at a great pace at the moment, and I think that will continue to gain momentum.
You already mentioned that there are, kind of challenging aspects also with digitalization in the dental industry. What do you see here as the biggest points that should be tackled?
I think a lot of the things that were barriers in the past have already been moved out of the way. If you think about the way in which music has been digitalized over the last few years, starting with vinyl, then to CDs, and then to streaming services. When I first heard about streaming services, I thought that's never going to happen because I had a dial-up modem at the time. But now, as the infrastructure moves on, the infrastructure becomes much better, it opens up opportunities for digitization. So the previous industries have opened up for dentistry. So dentistry is now coming in, I would say, later in the game here, but the infrastructure is in place. I think a big part of what dentists are asking themselves today is, what in terms of the cost of adoption is one part. How much does it cost me to make this change? And what's the value and benefit that I will get as a dentist, my patients get, when we actually make this change take place? But the biggest thing we're hearing from dentists about, you know, how do we get digital into a practice, is about changing people's mindsets. We had a lot about this yesterday from one of our big customers about how in a dental practice, everyone's used to doing something in a certain way. There's already a process in place to provide that treatment plan. And when you come in and change that dramatically by saying, instead of having an analog scan at the start, we're having a digital scan now, it changes the whole workflow. So it's not just about the dentist, it's about the whole team in the dental practice and then through to the laboratory who've got to work as one team to make that treatment plan work. And you can't look at these things in isolation. So
it's about collaboration, partnership, and networking on this. What we also hear often when it comes to digitalization and the public opinion is, okay, but what about data security? So especially in this sensitive industry, the question is, are the patients becoming totally transparent? So I want to give this question to you. Orna, is Big Brother watching?
So it's definitely something that people are worried about, but there are mechanisms that in any repository, and especially when we talk about cloud and Google Cloud, the information about the patient is encrypted, and two, when we bring the information when we share information, we share it in a method that doesn't take the full information. It can be called federated, it can be called privacy preserving, but that's something very fundamental in using information, medical information, dental information, specifically. When you want to know, for example, go back to COVID. You wanted to know information about COVID. You wanted to know general items about mortality, which are the key factors that impacted the higher mortality and stuff like that. And you gave priority for the immunizations accordingly. You didn't know who were the people based on whom this information was taken, because that's not important. What was important were issues related to age, to background, and that's the same here. We're keeping the information of the patient when it is encrypted. And it's encrypted at rest, and it's encrypted in transmission. And we're keeping the information local. We're not sharing the medical record. We're sharing certain characteristics about the situation, the medical situation. So it is anonymized. Mm-hmm. It is not containing any information that can be played back and guess the individual, even not the individual dentist, not the individual patient, and not the individual dentist. And that is partially what we do when we're sharing information in the cloud in order to come to conclusions based on a larger population.
Mm-hmm. So, Max Mills, maybe you can add on this, because I guess you're concerned about data privacy and security. What is it that people should know about data security in the dental industry?
Yeah, I think it's an incredibly important topic, data privacy and data security, and I want to build on something which was mentioned over here. Right? People want to focus on solving problems. And when you think about data privacy and data security, there's always an obligation on a practice to ensure compliance on how data is handled. It's the job of the dental industry to provide tools which allow this in an easy way, to make sure data is encrypted, data is securely stored, so that you can manage access, who has access to this data, how is it shared with others. And I think that's the challenge where the dental industry is asked to say, please provide the tools that make life easier to address these important challenges and not to add additional problems which need solving. Because even though you love solving problems, I think you'd rather focus on the problem of this is the patient's health issue or this is the prosthetic that needs to be developed than figuring out how was that data exchanged, was it stored securely, can I trace who shared it with me, when, who had access to it, because that stuff needs to move to the background so you can focus on what's the actual patient problem. And that's our job as a dental industry to make sure this can be done efficiently.
Mm-hmm. Are there already solutions out there that can help with this?
Absolutely. I think what we're building together with Google Cloud on DScore exactly has all of these different topics in mind to make sure the data is stored securely, it's encrypted, you can manage access to it. So I think we're at the beginning of all of those different pieces. And it's a little bit like when you're building a house, right? You start with the foundation and not with the interior design of the kitchen. And data privacy and data security and data storage are things that require a solid foundation before we think about the interior design of the kitchen.
So talking about challenges like this, Gertrude, you are, as a dentist, on the practice side, and you adopted a lot of technology and digitalization, but your peers might still see a lot of challenges. So can you maybe talk about a bit, what are the challenges that your peers see when it comes to digitalization?
Well, in the end, I think it starts a little bit with money. Spending money for things which replace other things, like impressions, which work in an analog way. So more or less don't see the full advantage. But from the patient's perspective, I never ever had a patient in my practice who said, "Oh, doctor, please don't scan me. I want that impression in my mouth." I never ever had, because the advantage is so truly on my side with the scanner. But it's, as we already said, it's just the beginning. I think there should be more comfort in everything, and I really look forward to get the technology be more sympathetic to me and my colleagues, to just use the scanner, to just use all the possibilities we already have, and not to have to buy so much equipment, not to have to buy so many computers. We have 3 times as many computers and workstations than treatment chairs, more than 3 times, except of the scanners. The scanners are on top, 3 or 4 scanners. So it has to be more, handsome for us in the practice. This is what we're really looking forward and what we really wish, and I deeply hope with the cloud computing, cloud dentistry, we go a step in this direction because all of us who are doing aligners so far already are used to use the cloud. Because since I started with aligners like 15 years ago, I use clouds in a certain small amount, I admit, but it's not nothing which comes from heaven. But now we have the chance to use a broader spectrum for our work, for our daily work, so that our patients are more and more again in our focus, back in our focus.
So you said there are the costs, and this is a big challenge. But you can also frame it as an investment. How do you see this? I mean, you did this investment. How does it go?
Yeah, it went very well. What shall I say? Actually, it's not only fun doing more modern treatments, it's also attracting patients. It's attracting team members, which is not easy in days in 2023 to get people to work with us. But in terms of having a modern practice, having a digital practice, it's easier to get staff and to get team members. Mm-hmm. And coming back also to the shift, to the generational shift and to the gender shift, which we see, that more and more female dentists are entering the stage and wanna buy practices. I cannot tell you how often I heard, well, you know, I was looking like a small practice which I can take over, but it was analog. I cannot buy it. I don't want to spend money in a total analog practice. I won't buy it. And on the other side, I know many colleagues in my age and older who want to retire, and they just can, you know, close the door because they cannot sell an analog practice anymore. Mm-hmm. So I think the direction is clear. And
make the practices ready for the future.
Yeah, I feel sorry for all of those who are right in an analog corner. I would say, just come out, enjoy, because it's worth every invest. I think in the lab as well in the practice.
Undoubtedly.
Yeah, talking about risks and challenges, how do you experience this, Devin?
We're certainly not insulated from risks, especially as a whole, when we consider what the future now is bringing us, what the now is. And when I look at this, and I wholeheartedly want to understand, I don't want to just give a quick answer, but I think it boils down to a question of fear. And I think that fear is a very human emotion. But I also think that hope is too. And that's what we're providing. Things are changing. We discussed that earlier. But what about hope for the future? I mean, what does this mean for us? And where is our place in this? So it's hard when we consider things of the past, opportunities that now arise. What do we have as technicians? When I think about this workflow specifically, when we get more into things like Core and Core Create, I'm in a regional place in Canada, but in the digital sphere, I can be digital next door neighbors to Dr. Gertrude. I can be a digital neighbor to essentially anybody. Mm-hmm. And that's how I really want to portray myself. So people who might not have ever heard of myself or my laboratory before, when they search to have these prosthetics created, designed, whatever their choice might be, because this is about choices. This is just another opportunity to jump on and jump off of a bus at any stop that you want. You want to partner for us for this part of the ride? Great, we're happy to have you. You want to come a little bit further? We're happy to have you. And I think that the longer you stay on the bus, the more you're going to enjoy the ride. It's a big bus. There's places for everybody. But when I look at what that big bus is, it's now affording me an opportunity to impact into areas that I otherwise did not and could not reach. How is that not a message of hope?
Mm. Yeah. This is a message of hope. I want to go with you on a rapid-fire question round so that you actually answer this question really quick. And it's about recommendations for the people in the room, for the dentist industry in general. So what do you recommend to our audience, to also your peers, your customers, the industry, to actively shape the future of dentistry, especially with the digitalization? Ladies first, Dr. Onaberry.
I think that the first thing that makes an impact on me is the intuitive explanation, the summarization of the diagnostics, such that the doctor and the patient can discuss the alternative solutions. That seems to me like first thing that attracts me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Jerry, would you?
It's a language. It's artificial intelligence and language exercise.
Yeah, to transport and adapt one to each other.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jerry.
Yeah, the first thing I would say is put the patient at the center, because in the end, it's the patient experience and the patient treatment which makes a difference. Another thing is about collaboration. It's collaboration between manufacturer, lab, and dentist. As we grow and develop digital technology, this collaboration is super important so that we can make it better and iteratively make it better and better each time. So I think collaboration is key.
Thank you. Devon, we go on.
I love the idea about collaboration. I had a mentor years ago, and we were both high-level nerds. And when we look at what we have, and we're always so excited to talk about microns and millipascals and all these things that compromise the industry, we're sitting in his office, surrounded by millions of dollars in technology, and we're the forefront of this, that, the other thing. And he said, Devin, the most powerful thing I have in this entire office? And here I am, give me the answer. This phone. This is the most powerful thing that I have. It's the ability to communicate. This technology is a collaborative ability to communicate, where we can understand our expectations, where we can assure one another of certain quality of images, to share things. If there's problems, communications happen in real time. That's a massive opportunity. A concern that I have looking at anything, but specifically with us and our dental friends today, though, I wrote an article some time ago where I was really exploring this idea of what I called expired truths. And what was true perhaps 5 years ago or 10 years ago, it was true, but it no longer is.
No longer, yeah.
And so we have to completely, just like on our browser, hit refresh. Because if you're like on ESPN in 1980, you want to get the sports scores. Those were the sports scores in 1980. But that's expired true. Refresh. What's the sports scores today? And I think we have to take that approach into our life, into our business, and to get a fullness of understanding as to where we are.
Okay, thank you. So in one sentence, Max, what is your recommendation for the dental industry when it comes to digitalization?
I think it's lean in to digitalization, because in difference to other technologies, digitalization is very adaptive. And user feedback is incredibly important in developing technologies. So if you don't use it, it will be developed for other users. So if you start using it, the systems can adapt to you. We'll see this function is needed, this is not working well, because the adaptation speed is much faster, right? Since when you're in a cloud-based system, basically it can change every day. Yeah. So if something isn't working, you don't like it, it'll be fixed.
So it's
and
about
that's
adoption.
Really about lean into digitalization.
Yes, thank you. Dr. Gertrud Favre, what is your recommendations to the peers?
Well, just coming back to the cloud, local storage seems to be less sustainable than cloud using cloud dentistry. I speak with the words of my patients when it comes down to whom they spend their time. They just want to come once. They just want to come once and get everything done. So speaking about chairside dentistry means the patient saves time, he saves energy, he saves transport. I myself and my team, for us, is the same situation. We save time, we save sterilization process, and so on and so on. So in a really tiny way, we might be, as dentists, as digital dentists, we might be stewards for a more sustainable world, if we use all those possibilities. And yes, they have to be paid, but I think they are a good invest into our future and the future of our children.
Thank you for the statement, because we also will have a panel on sustainable dentistry this afternoon, which will then connect to this panel. But now we want to open the stage for your questions. In the room, there are microphones, and also to our dear audience on the screens, you have the chat, and I receive the questions here on the tablet. So, yeah, the stage is yours for asking our experts your questions. Please raise your hands, and the microphones will come to you. And I also look at what our dear audience on the screens have already asked. So, any questions? Yes, in front here.
I just want to start by saying that this was very, very inspiring. Lots of keywords, hope, and all of the goodness happening within the dental industry. This question is for Dr. Fabel. What's next for you in your practice? You are already digital, and there's a lot of conversation today in the general public about AI and automation. So how do you make work more easy for you? Do you think that maybe you bring AI and even robots to support you and your practice?
Well, I think artificial intelligence has to be used with human intelligence. So I think I pick up every possibility I can get. But I want to train my team and my dear colleagues a lot more in that special fields, because I think in that field, universities are more or less behind. So maybe the industry is a bit faster than science and research. So what we have to do is to lecture, to train not only the team, but also as many colleagues as want to have a training from us digital ones, right?
Thank you. We have a similar question from the audience on the screens here for Max. So on the far horizon, what do you see as the next big thing in digital dentistry? Thinking about a bit ahead.
I think the next big thing is probably assisted intelligence. So it's really empowering dental professionals to do more without having to do all the steps manually. Mm-hmm. Right? I don't really like the term artificial intelligence, and I don't think we should use it that much. It's really about assisting and empowering dentists, lab technicians, because, for example, measuring the distance from here to there to say how big is the lesion, that's not time well spent. That's something which an algorithm can do for you. Giving you a first shot of, okay, this is what the simulation of this treatment could look like. That's something which can be done with the help of an algorithm. So it's really about assisted dentistry by using algorithms and cloud computing. It's not about replacing anything, like you said. It's about empowering people to do more.
Thank you. More questions in the room. We also have one more. Yeah, there.
I don't know if it's a question or it's a comment. I think it was Devon that mentioned the word fear. Hi, Devon. I've had the luck of listening to Devon and print some of his articles. I think when it comes to fear, if you deal with a lot of labs, the mantra for many of them is, company X is going to eliminate us. Company Y is going to eliminate us. And, company W, we're going to be gone. So I think the companies to try to reassure, because the message here is very positive, okay? And the labs are around, and everybody's speaking about, the role the labs play. But the companies, I think, are not, reassuring the labs. And the other thing is, Devon, this is a question for you. When it comes to digitalization, are the labs leading or are the dentists leading?
Good question.
How many dentists are in this room?
Just me.
Yeah. Then here we go. The labs lead. And I say that, and I don't just once again say that flippantly, and I've got some examples of how this is the case. But we are almost the wholesalers of digital information. We've been automating for years. We've been taking, what that means is analog scans from dentists, impressions, and trying to find ways to digitize. That began years ago. We've seen that the key opportunity, what was lacking, were those intraoral images. We also culminate that idea of innovation and modernization with materials as well, because they do walk hand in hand. So as we have a more sophisticated means of acquisition, we have more sophisticated means of design and creation. And they all complement one another. And any weakness in that chain is an issue. And labs are always seeking to strengthen those chains. And I have found that in the last few years, that for the first time maybe ever, no one ever used to ask me what my favorite PVS was. But they do ask me what my favorite scanner is. And that's been a huge change.
Thank you. We have another question from the online audience, which is to get to Jerry. So the question is, even within Europe, the health system differs a lot, and even more worldwide. Not everybody can afford good teeth or high-tech diagnosis and treatments. So how do you see the digital dentistry develop further from a global perspective?
I mean, I believe that digital will open up more of the markets than close down. I think it's giving more opportunity. And the digital workflow becomes more affordable, more accessible for many people. As technology develops, that's a natural progression. So I believe that digital will actually open up the global market for treatment for patients and change that dynamic.
Yeah, this is an international view that you bring in here. Thank you. So, on behalf of Dentsply Sirona, I'd like to thank you, the panelists, and our dear audience here and online for this very captivating session. Let me summarize a few key points that we had in this short time that we have. So, we heard that it's challenging but worthwhile to digitalize practices and the dentist industry. Providers like Dentsply Sirona are enablers for this journey, and dentists and lab technicians stay users, and the tools shall be intuitive so that we can really collaborate, communicate. And we heard that it's important to lean in, to try it out, to really together shape the future, because if not, you're just behind and maybe not future fit. So it's about making digitalization an opportunity for dentists and lab technicians so that they now can concentrate on what is most important to them, on their craft and on the patients. So to dig deeper onto the topic of digitalization and sustainability in the dentist industry, we'll have a panel this afternoon at 3:30 p.m. And you can also find more out about it on the Dentsply Sirona stand, the booth in Hall 11-2, where many more insightful demonstrations and surprises await you. Please feel warmly welcome to get in dialogue with the whole team there. So thank you all. See you then, see you later or next time, and keep on smiling.
Thank you.